What's up, everybody? We have a new studio, and I have a cut on my face. How you doing? Nice to see you. Hope you're doing all right. It's Capes and Cowls, and it is going to be the Friday episode. I'm excited for you to see the studio. We're starting to develop it. Both Winston and Coy said the exact same thing when they walk in. They go, oh, it actually looks like a real podcast studio now. So it's nice to have you here. We are going to be talking about not only She-Hulk, which we'll talk about the spoilers on episode 2. So if you haven't watched that, you should probably look in the time codes and skip past it, because we're going to be talking about She-Hulk and the stuff that kind of came out and all that type of stuff. But Winston can rest a little bit because it looks like the Batman Part 2 will indeed get a green light soon, especially with the script now being written. There's a lot of stuff, man. There's more rumors about X-Men and what happened. There's so many stories that are out there. We're going to have a lot. We're going to cover everything inside the comic book movie news. I saw a bunch of stories this morning that we'll cover, and we'll figure out what the hell it is. All right. So if you have not already, by the way, look at that. That's not what I wanted to do at all. What did I wanted to do? Okay. So first of all, you go to the Big Thing Clips channel. We are up. We are ready. We are ready to go. The Big Thing Clips channel. We have clips from this show, from Sith Council, from Big Thing, and they anywhere between 2 to 4 clips a day. So if you want to go on over there and check it out, and if you're not able to catch the full show every day, well, that's the place that you can go and figure it out. Now, we also, where's everything? I don't know where I put everything. Oh, there it is. Spotify. You want to go to Spotify? I'm going to go to this fucking Batman. Get right out of there. Spotify, Apple, everywhere podcasts are found. Make sure you check that out. Helps so much, and the audio downloads have been going up and up and up, and that's because of you guys. So I thank you guys very much so, and obviously if you're brand new to the channel, subscribe. We're trying to get to 70,000 by the end of the year, trying to get this thing on the road. But all right, let's talk She-Hulk. Let's talk about everything going on in the world of comic book movie news. Let's do it, everybody. You ready? I'm ready. Welcome back, everybody, to Capes and Cowls, the Big Thing. And I'm definitely going to do that. That's sure. I hate that stupid cut, but it is what it is. Look at this. It's Coy Jandrew. You like that, right? That's
good.
And then Winston. But how about that one, boys? Look at that. Look at that. Look at that.
This wide shot brought to you by Sunny D.
We can now look. We can now talk.
We can actually. I don't have to look through a computer.
It's the computer itself and the cameras and everything too. And shout out to it.
It was set up in a way. It was definitely some Hollywood magic where the eye line made it work. But
Barely.
we were deaf. But for us, we were looking through a computer to pretend like I could see your eyes.
Like there were moments where I'd be like talking to Kristian and like cheating just left, and I'm like, is he reacting to what we're saying?
Now we can actually see each other and talk to each other. Now, one of the things that I think all three of us are guilty of, and I've noticed in the comments every single week, all of us have to do today. Again, all three of us are guilty. There's not one person. Let's let each other speak. Because what I notice,
I'm gonna lean back today.
Yes, what I notice that we do in the middle of someone will be, because we get excited, and we're in the middle of a point, and we go, yeah, I'm listening to what you're saying, but I definitely do it. I saw myself doing it. So, and a lot of people had mentioned that. So I wanted
conscious effort. We're trying.
I saw it one time because like I have a tendency to do that a lot, and so I've been pulling back in life to stop just like barreling through conversations. So I saw somebody comment be like, "Yo, let my dude Winston speak just like one time," and I was like, "Well, I was kind of doing it on purpose, but I appreciate someone being like, yo,
oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Conscientious effort, but also rewarded."
I just realized that is we all have our little flaws, and it is a social anxiety, nervous energy thing for me to be like, there can't be silent. I have to always be talking.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to not do that.
I think it's live culture like on air too, where it's like when we've done more live than the average person. So it's weird when there's dead air for that. Yeah. So in life we're like tick, 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 tick.
Well, it's especially like being in radio and stuff too. Is you think that it's okay to have just for a second to sit chill, because the thing is also what I never wanted to do with this show is what I don't want it to be is, and nothing against the shows that we have done in the past, Coy, but like what I don't want it to do is to be like, all right, here's the news topic of the day. Here's my take, blah blah blah. Coy,
sure,
you go.
Yeah,
Winston, I love shows like that. Hell, Campy does it on his show, and I love going on that show, and he does a great job with it. It's not my thing.
It's totally fine. I mean, it's something that has become probably the biggest platform for like people digesting news at this point. Everything from The View to Sports Center, or not Sport, I guess First Take. You know what I mean? Like Fox News, Fox and Friends. Everybody does that shit.
Yeah. Well, somebody asked me though.
Such a fun around tables though. Now we have an L table.
We have an L table, and we'll get a new table soon. But this is a good setup to start with. But someone asked me recently, like, well, what if? To me, I always think like, again, if you put like, it can't be to me is whether it's ESPN or a news outlet. That's kind of his brand, right? For me, I want to have that podcast, whether it's Howard Stern, Rogan type of feel, where for movies like that, that is where we're all comfortable with, and I think that I scratch the itch that then for on this channel anyway for people who are looking for that. So, and it's different. Like there's a lot of people in our space who definitely don't do what we do.
And there's merit in both. And I think that's the point of having both, is that like what the audience is receptive to. A lot of people want to have a structure and like more here, and know what the 3 acts of the show is. I like the chaos of this sometimes. I like the structure of that sometimes. But when I walk in here, my brain is like, oh, okay.
Let's just have fun.
I know what this is going to be. And I like that. So, but within reason, we will try to be respectful of each other's periods and ellipses.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Here, oh,
See?
sorry. Yeah, we just did it right there. I was like, but yeah, you know, dicks, schlong.
Dicks.
There you go.
Well, it's perfect. I had Greg Alba on the other day, and we talked for like an hour and a half, and we covered a lot of different things, but we just talked about like life, and we talked about whether we talked about D23, we talked about, it was that switch back and forth. Now, obviously, this show is more detailed and structured because the whole point of it is to talk about the stuff going on in the world of comic book movies and shows. And speaking of which, let's start with She-Hulk. How about that transition? See? Throwing bombs right now. Maybe I just let some gas out. She-Hulk episode. That's right. How great was it to see Cousin Larry back?
Oh, perfect. So happy.
So good to have Cousin Larry back.
I thought I recognized it. It didn't click at first. She-Hulk's dad, right?
Yeah, I said Stranger Things on my non-spoilers, and it's definitely not that. It's and it's not Sith Council either. Okay, let's get to some of these pictures here that I want to talk about. So it just starts off when she's walking around the bar. Or immediately, what I liked about the episode, a lot of people like this episode better than the first. I don't know where you guys stand.
This is where it found its stride for me, and I like that they moved the origin from the end of the series to the beginning, like we've all heard about. But I do think it caused a certain tonal, like, hey, we need this to get done. Let's hurry back to the courtroom stuff, which worked, but it's a courtroom show. And I think it, in the second episode, showed its confidence in being Spin City with Soups. And I love that. It was like, hey, this is what the show's going to be. Trust us. And it took off for me in 2.
I mean, you guys also have the said context of the other 2 episodes after the fact, so I'm sure that might also be painting it a little bit. I found myself liking 1 a little more, but I do really, really like this episode just because we've determined this is a spoiler, right?
Yeah, it's a spoiler.
Okay,
yeah.
So like the fact that Emil Blonsky has evolved into who he is now is super interesting.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious because the other part of it is I also don't believe him, and even to the fact that like the first issue is like, okay, now that he's your client, you need to see this, that he's been sneaking out and going to underground fight rings.
I love that. What a way to end the episode also, too. And then, Coy, we can actually talk about the line that we love so much.
Yes, it's finally out there.
Which one?
So the line that we were talking about, and I'm assuming we're on the same page. So I thought it was a really clever thing was when she calls up Bruce and she's telling Bruce, she's like, hey, listen, I got to represent this guy, and I know it. And he's like, oh, that was so long ago. I'm literally a different person. It was so
she
great.
And only this show, remember I was saying how this show allows for comedy that couldn't really exist otherwise. And the way we were talking last week about the tone of a certain character that is going to allow, it was Blonsky. Because like, how perfect is that? It's still him. It's still accurate, but it is the comedy elements we were saying the show's going to do well. I'm now more excited for Daredevil because of Blonsky.
It's also interesting that Titania is a social media star.
Scary.
That's
but like
hilarious.
It's so real.
That's what's going on with her. I'm curious where that's going to come in because she came in for a split second in episode 1, got her ass whooped, and then we haven't heard from her.
I got stuck in traffic because Jamila Jamil was out in Hollywood tagging posters, and like she was like actually
for real?
Yeah, like as the character, like in all the costumes. But like there was traffic everywhere because people were all filming it.
Oh, wow.
But like all of Hollywood was dealing with like She-Hulk chaos, and I had this really weird boys moment where I was like seeing ads for superheroes. And then like I was seeing the ramifications of it, and it definitely felt like a Vought Industries moment where I was like, where does fiction and nonfiction end? Because we're so invested in this world. To see an actress tagging It's so rad. And as social media influence.
I'm trying to get paid a 6-7 figure salary to go and street tag shit in my costume.
True,
you kidding me?
Well, I was
not bad at it.
And it's funny you bring up The Boys because I think this, to me, it feels obviously not as raw as The Boys. It can't be from being in Marvel and being in Disney. But this show does have a boys element, element to it with the other superheroes that are coming in and what you got to deal with and the idea of the legality behind it and all that. So, and I agree with you that I think, even though I'm with Winston on the fact that I liked episode 1 the best.
Okay.
But I do agree with you very much so that the reason why this episode was so good is because it really lands into this is really what the show is.
Yeah.
This is what the show will become because this is how she gets her job. This is how, and I love that idea. Then when she's sitting at the table and she's like, no one's gonna hire me, and then the dude comes in and he goes, oh, now you got to be on the other side of it. So how you feel about that? And then, oh, by the way, we don't want you. We want She-Hulk.
Well, and to be honest with you, it rang true, and that's why I really enjoyed this episode. It rang true for anybody that feels like, you know, you were kind of an other in the office, and that you are a token. It literally rang true to every time in life that I have been the token in the room. And
I thought you were talking about me. I'm sorry.
That's all right. You got
It's fine.
Well,
New Yorker, token New Yorker.
As a credit to.
Yeah.
But like it was that situation where she was just like, you know, she's walking in the office and she's giving the spiel about no one's going to take me seriously. People are going to think I'm just here for that. And you see her, another woman, in the same way that you would hear, everyone's going to think I slept my way to the top. It's like, oh, you just did this because you're She-Hulk.
Right.
You don't actually have merit. It immediately clicked, and I was like, holy shit, I've been in that situation before, and I know that feeling. So I love the fact that they let us dive deeper into like kind of her psyche of what this is now. I thought that was really, really good.
The show continuously does this even from 1 through 4, is that it takes a nice play of what's going on in social media, in the world itself, the meta stuff, but combines it, but doesn't just get too spoofy. And I hate doing this every single episode where you compare it to Thor, but it's like where Thor just became to me kind of like a parody on itself. This show, like, and you just mentioned Blonsky, right? So Blonsky, to me, what I thought was done so well is that I just watched The Incredible Hulk with my oldest like 2 days ago, and this is after I had watched the She-Hulk, and I'm like, okay, so radically different, obviously, but there's something else that we're not talking about. This is 15 years later. Mike Tyson, when he went into prison, very different dude.
That's
when
a
he
good
came
point.
out.
Yeah,
a lot of different things. So and a lot of different people came out very different. So I didn't mind that because he's also, when they say it in the movie, he's 39 years old. So he's about 39 when he goes into prison. So this is whatever it is, 10, 13 years later, he's
mid-50s, right?
In his mid-50s, and he's chilling. He's doing yoga.
But I also think, and it'll be curious to see what happens here, is that this could very also easily read as somebody who
just trying to get out,
game the system so he can get out.
And that's what's going to be fun, right? Like the show's going to be able to manipulate our expectations by changing the tone with the comedy and the irreverence, right? Like the show is inherently tongue-in-cheek. The show is inherently pop culture and topical based, but because it's doing all that, we're not going to know what angle they're taking these characters, and that to me is the boys of it, is the irreverence.
Because you would probably know even better than I would, Coy. I don't think that there's a point. I mean, there's always a point where like the villains sometimes have to team up with the heroes because some bigger force, but there's never a point where Abomination becomes an anti-hero.
No, there's a run where Maestro in the future, like there's a World War Hulk adjacent run of a future imperfect continuity where Maestro teams up with Abomination to take out Doctor Doom, but then betrays everyone. But that's like literally a side universe in the future, so it's like a parallel. So in our continuity now.
So to that point, it's not that they couldn't do it anyway because they're writing the show. Yeah. But like all my red flags are up.
Sure, and I think they should be, and I love that.
And I think that that's what they're intending to do, of course.
I think Thunderbolts are going to come to play with him for sure. And I think the tone of him being like, I was just following orders, is going to be the Thunderbolts tone, where we're going to be like navigating what villains are, what heroes are, what subjective good is.
Yeah,
that's going to be fun.
What was the point? Because, again, I watched all 4 of these because I put up my immediate reaction yesterday afternoon. Like, how's the immediate reaction? Didn't come out of I'm like, because I taped them all in the same shot.
Yeah, people are so baffled by that.
I know.
I'm doing new Rockstars. I'm like, guys, I made the predictions that I predicted before I watched them. That was weeks ago.
But I was going to ask you because I don't remember because I didn't rewatch it. I just, going off of the memory, what was the post-credit on this one?
The post credit on this one was
the first one was Captain America F's.
Captain America F's. Her helping her dad. So like,
the
Right,
water
with all the
jugs.
garbage cans and all that. Right.
Yeah, the water keg stand was clever.
And I loved having him, and I loved that moment with them. By the way, I really enjoyed the fact that what it was you had cousin Larry from Perfect Strangers. He plays the dad, but what they're all kind of arguing back and forth, and that could have gone horribly wrong of just kind of shtick comedy.
Yeah,
right. It could have gone horribly wrong, and it became, hey, listen, kiddo, let's talk. I know I can see that things are going on with you. What's going on? He's being her dad. And it's like, there's these moments and these funny moments with the family and stuff, and that's there. But it's like, that's what I'm digging about the show so far, is that it can hit you with jokes, but then it does go into, okay, this is what this is.
I also like that moment specifically showed us where Jen came from, because we see she handles drama by putting comedy up and then settling down.
Yeah.
We see that she gets it from her dad,
right.
And then you get to be more invested in Jen because now you get like her family.
Yeah,
and that's so rad to like.
God damn, dude, that fucking family. Like, we're
just holding F's.
Ooh, that's right. I forgot.
Only because, like I said, like when I realized, well, it's so weird. And I understand this. For Big Thing, it's like you just let it fly, right? Big Thing proper. We're all learning here.
Yeah.
Big Thing proper lets it fly. Sith Council, we try to stay clean because of kids, and I think with the comic book movies,
that's fair.
Try to.
Sorry, kids.
It's all right. We're learning.
Yeah,
and I love when some of the audience gets pissed off, like, why you just say whatever you want to say. It's like, because I was the other day. Sponsors one thing, but honestly, no, that's not even the main thing, because they don't care as much. It's my kids. Like when I'll be in the kitchen, kind of like I said, I re-listened to episodes ago. We could have done this, we could have done that, and my little ones will be walking by.
Yeah.
When I'm listening, like when it's Big Thing, I know not to do that, because Big Thing, it's like the gloves are off, and it's nothing you did. I did. I think we all did it today already. I think I opened the show with an.
Maybe I'm laughing because I'm getting to that age now where I feel like when I was younger, I would always feel bad. I'd be out at like the grocery store or whatever, and I'd be like, "You effing," and I'm like, "Oh, kids. Damn, this baby, be quiet,
learn the world, you little mutt."
I was at a Dodger game yesterday for 5-year anniversary with Kristian.
Nice.
What's up, baby?
Oh, congrats!
Thank you.
She doesn't watch this show. Come on.
No, she
doesn't.
You never know, bro.
This is the time.
She knows it's the day of the anniversary. Maybe I shout her out. We were there, and both there, and I went to a Sparks game like 2 weeks ago. And when I tell you at the Sparks game, it was this mom that brought all like the Girl Scout troops so they could watch it. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Get the fucking rebound. And they were like, same thing in the Dodger game. Somebody got like a bat. I was like, oh, you stupid piece of shit. And they were just like, yeah, my child. I'm like, it's a Dodger game. Suck it up, motherfucker.
You'll be changing your tune quick. You keep going through anniversaries.
Yeah. That 5-year turns into a 10 and a baby comes out. You might be thinking about it a little different.
Hey, man, look, my child can come out the womb talking about, what's up, motherfucker?
Dude, I was swearing so much as a kid, and like I never thought it was odd because I always enjoyed the manipulation of like expectation, right? Like I'd know what language I'd get away with.
In Boston,
it's the Boston, and public schools, like those are meth head teachers. But like we got here.
Dude, I'm gonna play the Migos for my child when they come out the womb. So like, unfortunately, what's gonna be weird, honestly, what's gonna be weird is when Kristian is with the kid, and because the kid is half me, and because I say the N-word way too much, and he or she rips it off at mom, and she's like, go to your effing room right now.
We'll have a little logic baby. You're gonna be like, I don't know how to navigate this conversation.
Say, we can all agree, there's no N-bombs being thrown around in She-Hulk.
Reel it back in.
Right, and she can't believe we're talking about this right now. So, because if so, I would need her to represent the show, and then there she is. So, did you hear what they said on Capes and Cowls? I swear it was the black guy. I swear.
That's why we have the wide shot now. That's the wide shots for accountability.
And that's it. But the fact that this guy's great, by the way.
Yeah.
And I love.
A creep.
But you know what's great about that scene though is that it lets you know she's like, I can't represent him because of what happened, and he's like, oh, it doesn't matter. That's telling the audience it doesn't matter. I know. If you know Incredible Hulk, we get it, but it's different right now. So just
then he had a piece of paper for the legal side of it, showing the audience that we're like, we're gonna take you seriously enough. Like, here you go.
Exactly. And I'll tell you guys, if you want to take it serious enough, you should go to Storyblocks. Storyblocks, man. People have been using it. People have been telling me about it, and I'm so glad that you are. So glad that you are. Video is the most effective way for everybody to capture an audience's attention. You know that. And as a result, modern storytellers are always challenged with creating more video content at a higher quality, involving more voices in the process and distributing on more platforms than ever before. As creators, we face a lot of barriers, whether it's meeting output demands, time, budget, knowledge, creative inspiration, passion, burnout, and mental health in general. Storyblocks makes it possible for creators to keep up with the growing demands for modern video content so you can bring all your stories to life and stop sacrificing your vision due to time, budget, or resources. Storyblocks exists just to help you bring all your stories to life without sacrificing your vision. They have a royalty-free, demand-driven library, and it's always growing. They're constantly optimizing and adding to their 4K HD footage. They have After Effects and Premiere Pro templates, music, images, sound effects, all of it. You got to choose a plan that works for you and they have a selection of flexible subscriptions that scale to give you all the content and tools that you need to focus on creating, and you don't have to worry about budget. They have an unlimited all-access plan. It's the one that I recommend. And you can go to storyblocks.com/big thing. One more time, that's storyblocks.com/big thing. I'm going to put an iCard right there as well as a link in the description. But you can get their unlimited all-access plan, and it gives you unlimited downloads to over the million assets in their library, and try out multiple options quickly and find the perfect fit so that you can create more and spend less without sacrificing quality. One more time, that is storyblocks.com/big thing. All right, so let's any more in She-Hulk in general, because how it ends up. I mean, I'm curious to ask you guys both this too. I'm normally someone who wants to put more time on shows. I want to put 45 minutes.
I wanted to talk about that actually.
All right, I want to put 50 minutes on shows normally, right? Like I used the example of Obi-Wan, where there's a scene in one of the Obi-Wan episodes where he's talking about his brother and this information that came out. I'm like, oh, if they just added a little more detail to each one of these episodes and added 15 more minutes. I don't feel that way in this show.
I love that this feels like Spin City. I love that this feels like an episodic show, and I love that it feels like I always want more in the next episode sense, but not the binge it or it's missing something
bite size.
Yeah.
I like that it's bite size.
And I always want, I feel like it's a perfect appetizer. I've gotten just enough to be full, not heavy.
No.
I'm happy.
It's meant to be that.
And it is nailing that for me.
There are shows that are not meant to be that. There are shows that feel that way. Like, again, a lot of the Star Wars stuff right now should have so much more detail.
I feel like Star Wars is lunch, and it's playing with appetizer portions. 100%. And I want Breaking Bad things to be... But like some shows, I think Mandalorian and Obi-Wan dinner, but I think Boba Fett suffered from being lunch and not knowing it was lunch.
Sure.
So I want every show to have a different weight to it.
Right.
And I don't think this show is mistaking what portion size it is, because it makes me enjoy the fact that I've got a 30-minute show.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of throw on shows.
Right.
And it's really nice.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it works. This one I felt I was like, oh, it's already over. The first episode I thought was perfectly timed. This one I was just like, oh, well, damn. I thought we might get a little more settled with her in the office. That's what I was expecting. Is just not resolved, but just okay, and here we go. So that threw me off just a little bit, but not enough that I'm complaining about it.
Do you think that it's because we're accustomed to, especially Marvel, a little longer of episodes? So maybe that's kind of what you're hoping for?
That's part of it. I think part of it for me, again, just the more, I'm not going to compare myself to the writers of this show because they're obviously paid professionals doing this, but the more writing I'm doing, the more there's that weird ebb and flow of just we've settled what we needed to talk about in this episode, even though it is episodic. You know what I'm saying? Serialized. I always get those confused. Which one is it through storyline? Serialized. Even though this is serialized, there is, because you're mentioning Spin City.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of an episodic feel to it.
Yeah.
So I just felt slightly okay, but not enough that I was well, that was dumb.
To me, I like that you kind of want more at the end and for me a positive way, but it does remind me of a bygone era of TV on purpose.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of TV that feels oh, okay, back to...
it's it's funny because you mentioned Spin City. I was immediately thinking, especially now that she's taking on Blonsky, I'm actually thinking Scandal now.
Oh, that's fun.
Where this idea where it's oh God, now you got to do the same way you were dealing with politicians or with the Soups. And it's the idea that she's pulling him out of trouble that nobody could do. I immediately got that vibe, and I was I'm here for this. And this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah, and I also like the idea that how they ended it too, where she's it's as you mentioned with the ebbs and flows. We get to this point, she's okay, it's moving. It's oh yeah, turn on the TV. And then
Yeah.
and I loved how they played in Shang-Chi, and I loved how that. And I was like, well, wait a minute, what? Wow. And then like now, but that's what they're doing well with TV. What they've done traditionally is like tune in next week for you know, and it's like that's what this is.
It's that's the funny part to me is I was like, wow, they really did just bring this in, because I was like, okay, he was just at that fight ring. Mm-hmm. Why? How is he? Is this in the past? But that answered the question.
And I love how they're playing with continuity in Marvel. I love that they're like, we saw the reference to the Celestial finally.
Right.
There's an Easter egg about like
what was it? What was
there
that?
was a line of news ticker tape like, what is this statue of a man and blah blah blah. Like quickly, like there's literally finally a mention of a Celestial.
I missed that.
Also,
I did too.
you guys see the Wolverine thing?
Oh, wait, so, okay, great. So there's two things here. Wolverine is one thing, and then also the other thing we should talk about is there's a lot of people talking about potential, what's it, the War Hulk?
World War Hulk. Yes, because he took
I did a whole video on that,
So
Real Rejects.
All right, so let's talk about both of those things. So, Corey, tell us first about the Wolverine thing, which I definitely didn't pick up, and then the only reason I know anything about the Hulk World War thing is because I read it on the news.
So there's a shot in the show that's a news ticker, and on the bottom third it mentions man in bar fights with knives on his hands, and it literally like it's Wolverine.
Yeah,
like there's a man in bar brawl fights with knife hands or something.
That's
like
hilarious.
That. And it just name dropped Wolverine. I'll try to find the shot for you guys.
See, I'm sure it's out there.
Dude, that's what I get for like trying to watch the show while I was still working. I saw the show, but I missed little finer details.
Too, yeah.
I didn't even see that. But no, yes, the World War Hulk thing while he's looking that up.
Man fights with metal claws in bar brawl.
Can you text that to me right now, and I'll put it on the screen?
And underneath it, why is there a giant statue of a man sticking out of the ocean?
Yes, text it to
and
me.
Iron Man
right
3s. That's kind of fire. That's fire that they get the little show details like that. But no, dude.
So the other thing, by the way, and I guess we can get into some more news, but we talked
for the record, I missed that the first time, and then when I did my second viewing, I caught it. So I did not catch the Wolverine until the second time because like life.
So tell me about the Hulk. So basically, in Hulk, he goes. So at the end of this episode. Yes. He's on the phone, or not at the end of it, but one of the reveals is he's on the phone with her, and then he's like, "Yeah, don't worry about it." She said, "When am I going to see you again?" He's like, "I'm going to be a little tied up," and he goes flying into space. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, that's kind of a setup for."
Yes. So World War Hulk, why people were kind of like, okay, Ragnarok, they took some things and just kind of mashed them together. World War Hulk, the Illuminati is like, yo, Hulk, you're too wild, bro. Bruce, you're going to kill somebody. So we've decided you're gone. Yeah. And they just ship him off. And he gets pissed off about it, as the Hulk would, and he ends up crashing the ship on this planet called Sakaar. And that's what we kind of saw. That's the planet that he ended up on in Ragnarok. He does become that gladiator that everybody's obsessed with. And then he ultimately overthrows like the king that's there, similar to what was sort of happening with Goldblum, but we didn't really get into it. Yeah. And he settles the planet as like the ruler, has a wife, has a kid, and
like Conan almost.
Yeah, kind of, sort of, exactly like Conan. And then the ship that he crashed in, because it just was unstable, explodes and pretty much kills everybody on the planet, including his wife and his kid. And then Hulk is like, I'm gonna go back and murder everybody. And so he goes back to Earth and he just starts slapping everybody around like crazy. So the fact that he's going back to Sakaar, that's why people are like, oh, is this gonna actually play out now?
You think they're gonna go that route?
I think that enough people have complained about Smart Hulk that what they're gonna do is have him break on the planet when his family dies and play the long game and like have him like get to that point and then have the rageful Hulk come back from. He's the only Hulk we've got that has like a dissociative identity disorder, right? Yeah. He's the only one that has those voices. So I think there's something that might activate another voice. And I think what might happen, and I'd love to see this, is imagine if he's a dedicated, almost detective criminal gray Hulk on the planet and we get like a Mr. Fix-It.
What's funny about this though is that everyone who talks about this is that no one, myself included, talking about how, I mean, my favorite version of the Hulk, even watching The Incredible Hulk, is Rage Hulk.
Which one?
Well, the one that when you
the Ragnarok one, the OG like Avengers one.
I think the OG Avengers.
So I think that's where we get.
But what I'm saying is, and then everybody started complaining about Smart Hulk, right? And the answer that I've not heard anyone say, no one. The reason why you're getting so much Smart Hulk is because they want to utilize Mark Ruffalo. And it's like,
absolutely.
And I was like, the other day, I'm like, why did I never say that? I'm like, it makes so much sense. It's like, because as Rage Hulk, which I love, the thing is, you're going to have to write more scenes if you want to utilize Mark Ruffalo. There's got to be more scenes inside of the transition because in Ragnarok, he's barely in it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, it's him,
Right.
and it's the version of him, and he can, and maybe he is playing them as, I don't know, but it's not the same as when he's having this that's full on Ruffalo when he's having those conversations with Tatiana Maslany and those things. I mean, that's why you utilize him. That's why you pay him. But I do think it's time for Rage Hulk to come back.
I get that, and I think if you end up in a scenario that, like you said, he goes to Sakaar, his family gets killed, and so then he can't control it, and so like Hulk fully takes over, and it's not Bruce in there. I think the thing that we haven't been able to do, and there's a lot of great storylines that have happened over the last few years, including one that's happening right now. Part of the whole Hulk thing, I get that there are times where they're on the same page. But there's a lot of times where Bruce is like, you're an effing monster and I'm going to kill you.
And them addressing that directly in She-Hulk, I don't think is an accident. Him being confused about not having the steering wheel, like all of that is very, and that's all very Immortal Hulk dialogue.
Yes.
Immortal Hulk deals with multiple personalities talking, and Hulk also has like an abusive dad and stuff that I think we explore.
No one talks about
so we
that,
could like have an interesting time exploring that in the other planet.
I think it'll be a great, and that's why now, because we only get 6 episodes.
We get 9.
We get
9 or 10, yeah.
Yeah, we get 8 more or 7 more.
So here's my question: do you think? Because I still think that it's going to be, She-Hulk that's going to have to try and like fight her cousin. Do you think now that they're going to try and pull that off this season? I think that's too much.
I think he's gone.
I think he's off on the.
I think Hulk is now setting. I mean, the Universal rights are back tomorrow.
Did they get it back?
They get them in 2023.
Next year.
Perfect timing.
I thought it was in perpetuity.
No,
Are you
2020.
sure?
I'll look it up.
Double check. I could have sworn it was in perpetuity from what they said.
If that's the case, I don't know why Universal isn't immediately signing up and being like, "Yo, let's get this bread." I saw what y'all did with Sony.
With Sony, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I think it would work. But all right, so that's the majority. Corey's looking that up.
Yeah,
but
it is a very large rumor. 2023 Universal. A bunch of Disney sites.
See.
A bunch of.
We'll see. It's funny. There was, as we mentioned with D23. You got. What the hell? I don't know why you're on there. Get out of there. D23 is you doing an impression of me.
Waves.
Right. Hello, it's me. But D23, there's a lot of different rumors, whether it's Fantastic Four and Doom we've talked about, and Deadpool is a given. The other thing that I didn't realize, and there's a really great someone a fan who contributes comments every single time on this channel, and recently said, "Well, look, take a look at this is what is going to happen on all these panels, and what you're not. It is going to be a 2-hour panel, the Lucas." And he said, "Well, you're not also realizing it's also going to be the Fox brand as well." And then he sent me the link, and it's Fox, whatever it's called. It's certainly listed in
20th
there
Century
as well.
Studios.
Yes, 20th Century. Excuse me. So that's. All 3 of those are listed. So now it's a balance of all those. But inside of 20th Century is probably Deadpool because that's where it came from.
And maybe Avatar. Do you think we get some Avatar footage?
Probably.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
That would make
Avatar,
sense.
Deadpool.
Yeah.
What was that?
How do you have a ghost? What a strange thing to happen off.
Winston's foot.
Oh, I'm like, I don't see what could have touched that.
That's what happens when you put socks on sandals. So
Too much joy mode.
hey, man, look.
too much joy mode. Hello, is anyone here?
Hello.
I don't know why your penis became English.
Proud of it.
I mean, dude, my first name is Winston. I'm not surprised at all. If anything, it might be Jamaican.
We don't do those accents here.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he can.
On the wide shot. Only on the wide shot.
Bring your ass to the sheets. It's got the joy mode.
That's right.
He's allowed in that sweatshirt too.
What's he doing back there?
That was his reaction.
That was his reaction. They're still doing it. They're still going down that path. But what the hell?
We're gonna need you to run the African American division.
Right. That's Avatar.
Yeah.
Deadpool. And then it's just a matter of how they
Prey
divvy
2.
up. Yeah, how do they divvy up? I don't think they're going to announce that. Or maybe they announce it, but they're not going to have any panel
Stuff,
on it.
yeah.
But how do they divvy it up, right? Like, you would assume Marvel's going to get the juice. Marvel's going to get them.
I don't know if they do because of
come on.
Comic-Con.
Dude,
They'll get.
Dude, that juice was set up juice.
Yeah.
If it's gonna be anything, I think now that you've mentioned it, it's gonna be a third. But I genuinely think because of how much they
45.
How long is the panel?
45, 30, you think?
20. I mean, if it's 3 things, and I think Fox gets the 30. They have less properties.
I think Fox will get the least amount. right? So, and I personally, I think it's going to be 30-30 in an hour. I think Marvel's going to get an hour.
I think Celebration means Star Wars is in a good spot. I think the Comic-Con announcements were very much like, hey, we're Marvel. And they set up the momentum, and then they gave you, like, the blank slate Phase 6, and I think they're adding to Phase 5.
I will tell you, though, as a Star Wars, and because you guys know, Star Wars is the thing that I'm most excited about.
Yeah.
Star Wars should be the one with the most time. I don't think Celebration, they didn't give you the Acolyte.
It was more reunion-based.
Yeah,
but looking back.
But there was some stuff. Sure. But it's, I mean, Ahsoka's coming up right around the corner. The Mandalorian's coming up around the corner. And if they're going to focus on those two things. But the question is, are they going to have these? I'm waiting for them to do kind of what I want to come out of that. You guys obviously want to come out of it with hyped up for Marvel and the stuff that they're going to.
I'd love to be hyped for Star Wars, too.
But I'm just saying, I said this on Sith Council, I want to be in a place where I'm like, okay, I'm just expecting them to show a trailer, do this, but I want to be a place where like they announced like some big series, but I don't mean just like one random series, like something that I always ask this and I always get it wrong and I'll forget it again, but it's Infinite Crisis or On Earth, whatever the hell it was called.
DC's Crisis on Infinite.
Yeah. So that how big that event was.
Yeah.
For CW or whatever the hell it was on. I want something like that for Star Wars. We'll see. Marvel will do it. Marvel will have some kind of an
Marvel's already
done it.
Did it, and they're going to double up again. But I this is why I just don't think Marvel, like, they're going to get their time, but because they dropped so much at Comic-Con, this is more of like, we're going to give you a few more final trailers for like Wakanda Forever. Maybe here's a little thing for Ant-Man and the Wasp. But then here's some of the things we didn't tell you. This is and one more thing that we were talking about with Steve Jobs. And I think this is the opportunity for Star Wars to have that moment.
See, I'm going the other way.
Yeah.
I'm going, they saved their X-Men. They saved they want
Fantastic
their hometown.
Four.
They get that hometown advantage.
Yeah.
Like, this is our convention. This is what D23 is.
Yes, and they have so much stuff. You just mentioned 2 or 3 things, and right then and there, that's going to be a couple of minutes or 15, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All the stuff that they have. I'm telling you, I think they start out with what's it called now? 20th Century. They start out with 20th Century, and they're going to do around 20 minutes, maybe a half an hour.
Yeah.
Right. And
then
they'll bring Lucasfilm, and maybe Lucasfilm does 40, maybe. But I say a half, and then they're going to close. They're going to.
Is it at that point now where Star Wars just doesn't have the same kind of clout that Marvel does?
Oh, I think that happened a couple of years ago, man. And then I think because of the same reason. So I brought this up, and this combines into both Marvel and Star Wars, so we can talk about it for sure on the show. But I said yesterday, and let me make my point before you guys come yelling at me. But
comics.
Thank you. But I had said yesterday on a clip out that if there's any movie that I would like to see canceled or pushed to the side, it's Taika Waititi's movie. Now, that's not because I don't like Taika Waititi. I happen to love Taika Waititi. I think he deserves all the success that he's had. I think he's hilarious. I think he's a very funny dude. I think it's a bad move for Lucasfilm to lead with that movie right now when I don't even think Taika knows what the hell it is yet. And the problem with Taika at the moment is that, and this is a problem that Lucasfilm has, is that they say, we have the hot director of the month, and that's that person. Get on in there. You do one. Oh, that didn't work out? Oh, you come in and you do that, right? And they don't have any, focus. Marvel has focus. And Marvel can also afford, if you don't like Doctor Strange 2, if you thought Thor was a parody of itself, Marvel can afford that right now. Lucasfilm cannot. Not with a movie that they have coming out that the last movie was Rise of Skywalker and very low rated on Rotten Tomatoes and from fans. Last Jedi didn't go over very well. Solo was a bomb, right? So they're not working on. They need a movie that's going to hit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I think that it's a matter of. I think Marvel has enough stuff. Lucasfilm needs something. To answer your question. They've been surpassed because there's way more public trust in their fan base with Marvel than the public trust with Star Wars.
I guess what's just so wild about that, I mean, I know obviously comics have been around for forever, but as far as being in this scape, Star Wars has just been such a juggernaut for so long. Yeah. And it's not to say that it's not anymore, but
it's not a movie a quarter.
To genuinely take a backseat because Marvel is a movie a quarter.
And the volume of it. Like, you can't tell as many Star Wars stories without the momentum that Marvel now has. Like,
Not
you
right
can.
now. You can, but not right now.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
you're right.
it's a whole galaxy far, far away. It has the potential, and I'd love to see it actualized.
Right.
But without the momentum, because of what you were just describing, it's not going to feel like that until they find that rhythm again.
But that's
Give
why
me the Bill Burr show.
And that's my whole point, though. It's
Space
like
Foster.
No, don't do that. I love Bill Burr also, but again, you have to come out swinging. You got to come out.
You need something big.
You came out with Iron Man.
Yeah.
Boom, and then The Incredible Hulk's a good movie, and it's a good movie. Just it wasn't formed yet, but they started forming it, and it started to take shape. And like right now, Lucasfilm just can't say, "Oh, well, Taika, people love Taika. Just do whatever you want to do. A funny movie."
I agree with you. I was curious. Did you see the news that KOTOR is back on the game? That they've got a new studio to do that.
There's a games panel at D23 as well.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I definitely want to check
Marvel
that out.
too. I think the Wolverine game is going to get some details.
But that would be your answer, I think. I think if you're trying, you've already got all the stuff that's going on.
Knights of the Republic, 100%.
Dive into Knights of the Old
They're
Republic.
scared of it, dude. And look, we can get into Star Wars stuff 100 times over, but I want to hit some of. I want to hit some of these other news stories that we should be talking about here. What is this? Stop this. Let's. Stupid.
This is actually happening. We got incepted.
No. The first thing I wanted to actually talk about is Batman, right? And I have. Well, let me just bring this up too.
It's my biggest news of the week. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's big news. So if we so to let everybody know, Batman was basically brought in a someone to do the writing of the show.
Mattson Tomlin.
Yeah, is that who's right?
Yeah,
writing?
I worked with him. He's doing the Berserker movie.
Oh, great!
He was on my panel at Comic-Con.
Great. So and this is something. So this is from comicbookmovie.com. We finally have a positive update on the Batman franchise's future with Matt Reeves signing an overall deal with Warner Brothers that will see him pen the sequel alongside Mattson Tomlin. And check it out. Okay, Deadline reports that Batman director Matt Reeves has signed on an overlooked first-look film deal with Warner Brothers. Now the filmmaker will call the studio home, which makes perfect sense when he's so deeply involved with the Caped Crusaders franchise on the big and small screen. So making this legendary studio my home is a dream, Reeves said. So is that big paycheck. I am so excited to be working with Mike, Pam, Channing, and our other teams to bring captivating stories. So the trade also confirms that as part of the deal, Reeves is currently penning the Batman sequel with Project Power scribe Mattson Tomlin. He also worked on the first movie, although when he was at Hall H, he said the host was terrible.
Yep, specifically.
Though it didn't receive a credit for his contributions. Among the other upcoming DC projects is the TV Penguin show and Arkham Asylum. All right, so we'll go back into
Matt and Ted will do this deal as long as not hosted in Hall H with Coach Andrew.
Here's the one thing that I wanted to say, because I didn't do it on Twitter because I didn't want to do that, and I didn't want to do it in text. Winston had texted us at one point when all the Zoloft stuff was going on with and it still is, but with Warner Brothers and everything, and Winston texted our chain and he said, "This guy's an idiot. He's now they're not greenlighting Batman." And what I wanted to say to Winston was like, that one makes a little bit more sense to me at the point, because we don't know what's going to be happening right now with Matt Reeves. We don't know what the deal is. There's no script yet. There's no chance they don't greenlight that movie.
It made so much money off of so little money budget.
It's just a matter of because of everything going on at the time. You're like, oh, now the guy's not even going after Batman. Of course they were going to go after the Batman.
Yes,
I know what you're saying. I get why you were there.
It's just all happening at the same time, and I'm like, because I think the other reason why, because that actually came out from Variety. That wasn't like some random
of course.
It was like Variety getting at it, and they were like, well, they greenlit Joker 2, and they paid a shit ton of money.
I mean, this leads more and more credence to that Black Label regular continuity theory I have.
But it makes more sense now when you find out that they were working on an overall deal for Matt Reeves. Right. So it's more like, okay, we're not going to announce anything, and then somebody leaks the fact that they haven't signed it. Like, yeah, of course now. We're in the middle of a deal with this guy.
Yeah, we're making a big multi-project deal. We're not going to rush this.
We're making a deal with him. So as soon as the deal's over, we're going to go, and it's going, and it makes sense. And we're not. And another reason, you're not going to see this movie for another 4 years.
Which people, God, there's so many people on Twitter that have tried to get going. Get us Batman 2 for 2024, and I'm like, no,
it'll be garbage.
No chance. Don't rush that. Don't rush. That's what they did with the Star Wars movies.
Mattson is so.
It's the back wire. Just don't touch the wire.
Okay.
Leave the microphone alone, will you?
Mattson.
I don't know. Maybe you didn't touch it.
I didn't touch it. Hands up. Okay. Mattson is so.
While I'm on the.
Yeah, it's good. Hey, look, we just started. Maybe it's this.
Oh, this is amazing. Okay.
Good luck to us all.
Mattson is such a diehard Batman guy that he actually wrote a Batman imposter comic for DC Black Label.
Nice.
And that sensibility, I think, is what we're going to get with the combination of Matt Reeves and Mattson working together. Because they did talk about them working together in the first, but now with his experience in both mediums, I'm even more excited. Like when you write a comic about a character and then you go back to do the movie, and he's also adapting Keanu Reeves' comic, which is why I know him for the screen. So he's now adept at not just the comics, not just movies, but making those blends. So I couldn't be more excited about this specific announcement. Mattson, we're stoked.
I'm here for it. I guess what it comes back to with I don't even know how to say the man's real name at this point. Just
call him Zoloft.
So I just call him Zoloft at this point.
He's not earned it. He's making more decisions.
I'm never working for Warner Brothers. So it was the fact that, like you mentioned when we talked about this on our first Capes and Cowls, it's his bedside manner, dude. If
that's right.
If this is what you're working on with Matt Reeves, you don't need to give away the farm, but to be like, okay, we're getting rid of this, we're getting rid of that, but there are negotiations going on.
That's tougher. That's tougher, and I'll tell you why. Because when you start making public, look, I don't like defending.
If it falls apart.
If it falls apart, plus the fact it's a chess game every time you're negotiating anything. So
and
anytime
you
get
more leverage if you
leverage, and if it's leverage, and if you start putting that out there, that deal's out there, and then the public gets like, and then because then it's the agents going, well, wait a minute, look at the public response.
Look how well this is going.
So you got to. I'm not going to give them crap on that one.
I get it. I guess that was the thing, is that I guess maybe that's one of those Aaron Rodgers saying when they went like 0-4 one season to start, and his response to the media was just relax.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what Zoloft is doing, considering
and again, look at us versus the rest of the country. We're so much more invested in all this. We know so much more. Like we talked about with the Ezra Miller situation, 90% of the iceberg is not aware of any of this.
I did a test on that, by the way,
because
I wanted to see after our conversation, and I was like, okay, because we're in LA, and I was walking down the block. We were walking my kids to school for the first day, and one of the other dads was sitting there talking to him. We were going over this thing, and I said, let me ask you a question, because I think we just fresh off the conversation. I said, what do you think of this whole Ezra Miller situation going on? He looked at me and goes, who's that? And I was like, well, and I told him the situation. He's like, yeah, I don't. He's like, I didn't even know there was a Flash movie coming out. And I said, Michael Keaton's coming back. He's like, oh, that's cool. I was breaking the news to him. Like, and then I was like, well, and I brought the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing. He's like, of course, because it was everywhere.
Yeah.
And this was just in like pockets of thing. But anyway,
it is interesting how it's going to roll out.
I can concede when I'm wrong. I did something similar, and I could say I asked maybe 3 people about like Ezra Miller specifically, and one of the 3 knew. Right. The other 2 were like, who? And I was like, he's been in, the Dumbledore stuff, the Crimes of Grindelwald, whatever the hell, Fantastic Beasts. Yeah. They've been Fantastic Beasts. He's played the Flash and stuff. He's like, oh, I'm sure he looks familiar, and I kept seeing his face in a mugshot, but I don't know what's going on. Sorry.
But it's also just a matter of perspective on what you're investing your time and energy into. So this story, like, our take on this WB stuff, they might be going like 0-4, relax, let's settle it. Like, they might just be making their long game, and we're going whoa, because we're so in the industry in a different perspective.
Of course, and there's a lot of other things, and one of those things that was going on that people were talking about here is Batgirl, right? And so there's a lot of stuff going on in the Batgirl world here, and let me get some of the stuff that kind of went down.
What's happening right now?
Yeah, like there's secret funeral screenings of the Scrap movie that are being held at Warner Brothers. Now, although we will never likely see Batgirl, what are being described as funeral screenings of the movie are being held on the Warner Brothers lot for cast, crew, and studio executives. Well, and this is from Comic Book Movie again. It seems like a cut of Batgirl still exists after all. While there are no current plans to release Batgirl in theaters or HBO Max because they want the tax break, THR is reporting that funeral screenings of the Scrap movie are being held on the Warner Brothers lot for cast, crew, and a number of studio execs. After these screenings, the movie is expected to be locked away in a vault, either physical or digital, but the studio may take more drastic measures.
This is the crazy part.
This right here. According to the trade's insiders, the Batgirl footage may be physically destroyed, as a way to demonstrate to the IRS that there will never be any revenue from the project, and thus it should be entitled to the full write-down immediately. Others dispute this and believe that Warner Brothers may still decide to release the film someday and pay the government back its tax liability. This is a crazy story. The first option may prove to be the more appealing for David Zoloft and company. However, it does sound like the studio might be in dire financial straits. Earlier tonight, the news that both, and we'll combine this into two, Aquaman and Shazam have now been pushed to 2023. Well, really? Aquaman already was pushed to March. Aquaman was now pushed to November or December, and Shazam took over the March date. No.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a few things with this. Yeah. We talked about the tax stuff a few weeks ago, but what's interesting with the release dates is people don't think about when we talk about releasing a movie being double your budget, right? So if a movie's $100 million, imagine $100 million for press. That's money you need on hand. What I'm hearing is they don't have $210 million to release these movies. So, like, they've got the $210 million movie done in some case, but they can't get it out because they don't have the money to advertise it. They don't have the money to, like, go to exhibitors. And then
they're in trouble right now.
And then you also are splitting the money with the exhibitors themselves. So Matt Damon just did that video that's going viral again. Yeah. It's like an old Hot Ones, but for some reason it's really popular because of all this. Yeah. But basically, like, you make a $25 million movie.
When you started talking, I was like, oh, you watched that Matt Damon video.
Oh, I know. But I'm tying it all together. You think a Boston boy pops on my screen and don't press play?
Of course.
But so basically $25 million.
So excited your voice cracked.
I need to go home. Boston! But you need to make $100 million, right? Yes. So imagine with $200 million not being able to borrow more. So you're considering destroying for an immediate write-down to release. So what happened was Shazam was originally supposed to come out in June of 2023. They moved it up 6 months to our current December release date. Then the March release date that was just vacated by Aquaman 2, because I think Ben Affleck is shooting way more than they're saying, is now vacant. So now you can move to that March date, and then if you look at it, that means one movie a quarter every time you get your tax back, every time you start to play with money. So now they're doing quarterly movies to balance all these, but I don't think we're going to see a balance for like 4 or 5 years.
No,
if it's this bad, it's going to take a while.
The business behind it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I get it. And it's also one of the reasons you bring in Alan Horn, who worked at Warner Bros. For so long and then worked at Disney for so long and it worked on the Marvel side with Bob Iger and Kevin Feige and all that too. I get it. It goes back to what Winston and I were saying about how Zoloft has been doing his thing and how he's been presenting it and how he's been doing all that. That's the problem. He's not, what I will say about him, he's not in an easy position. I don't think anybody can deny that. He's in a very tough position. I mean, all these stuff, I don't like the decisions at HBO Max. I don't like them at all. Like the idea behind it. However, what I will say is this. It does make sense. I get why he's making the cuts that he's making because he's trying to get money back. I get all that. It sucks and it could hurt the product, but I get why he's doing it.
You're in what was it, Haslov's higher theory of survival or whatever.
Yeah.
You're beyond food and all that. Right now you're just
survival.
Immediate danger.
Yeah.
If they're that broke,
cut off the arm.
You're in immediate danger mode, and then we can worry about shelter, and then we can worry about food. Like,
and he's also in a place where he's like, okay, look, I don't care what this idiot Harloff is saying about me and calling me by the wrong name. I gotta protect this business, and I'm gonna slash and cut and everybody can hate me now, but if I pull this thing together in 5 years, I'm going to be a conquering hero. Look at, what was his name? Theo Epstein from when he took over the Red Sox. He took over the Red Sox. It was like, okay, he took over making these moves, and the guy won a championship for him. And then he did it for the Cubs. You know, it's like, so like, and he's looked upon as like one of the best now owners of all time.
Not at first.
That's
the thing.
That's what I'm saying. And
I'm hopeful.
Yes, and you're going to have your naysayers.
Yeah.
You're going to have your people who critique you. If the moves turn out, look, we could also look and say, he made all those movies and he lost even more.
And my other fear is the other side, like the WeWork side. All these companies see implode, and they made a profit as they imploded, and that's what scares me.
And they sell to Disney the way that Fox did.
And then we get our Batman, Spider-Man.
Right.
Which, real quick, you kept mentioning the tax write-offs. Did either of you watch Last Week Tonight?
Not often, but sometimes. I love it when I have time.
So John Oliver makes it a point to constantly just like shit on whatever company puts on the show. So it was AT&T obviously previously.
Yeah.
And so now that they've been acquired, he goes, they're dropping more stuff than HBO is dropping, like, properties. HBO Max, it's not TV, it's a tax write-off. Like, I was like, that's a good
dark. It's real right now.
It's true. And look, and especially it's crazy because like it's like this measure of success and this thing that comes like you look at the week that they have and you start out with Monday, and Game of Thrones is one of the highest rated TV shows, and the House of the Dragon, and the most popular premiere in HBO history.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh yeah, we're losing money. It's a tough time for them because they have a lot of, because it's not like they have, well, you look and you go, oh, they just have garbage. They don't have garbage. They got tons of great stuff. So
tons of great expensive
It's going to be interesting. All right, so we got a couple more things to talk about. So the Batgirl is interesting. That's going to be, that'll be a story
for a long time.
For a very long time. We mentioned Aquaman. That's going to be pushed back. I'm bummed that it's being pushed back because I'm actually really excited for it. But I do think this is the right move to push it back this long, and it's because of what you just said, and that's if you can put more Affleck in there.
Yep.
If you can try to find a way to maybe just maneuver things around a little bit more.
Because when does Flash drop again?
Flash now, it's supposed to drop in like June.
Because that's their Q2 movie.
Yeah.
So I think
supposed to drop
Shazam 2, Q1, June Q2,
yeah,
that movie, and then Q4 is
Wasn't
Aquaman.
it always supposed to be Flash before Aquaman anyway, but things just got jumbled around?
Yes.
So then you're also allowing yourself to write the timeline, no pun intended here.
Yeah.
In that, like, you are now putting them back in the order you initially wanted.
They also suggested reshoots for Flash like
Yes.
a month ago, and I'm wondering if those were ending with Affleck coming back.
Well, on that call, I'll call him Zaslav for this one because he's.
Is that how you say it?
Zaslav, yeah.
Zaslav.
When he's putting together his plan, then I'll start to use his name, right? So Zaslav said at that call, on that phone call, that okay, we have this plan, we have this thing we want to do, and we want to put this movie out, we want to do this, but there's going to be other things that we could do, and they hinted at kind of reshooting some stuff, pasting things together, and that's exactly what this move does. This move does that. It puts in there, and what it does is if the Flash is testing very well for people who have been watching, saying it's supposed to, apparently it's great. So
the team is incredible.
Yeah,
like the
so
actual team behind it.
So if it ties all together and then you put out Aquaman,
then you've got your rebuild started.
Now you got a plan.
Now you got a universe forming.
Yeah.
Because then you just let Matt Reeves and
Todd
Phillips do their own thing.
You have DC Black Label.
You have your Black Label.
Keep it
and
separate.
This is your connected whatever going on. The only thing is I just genuinely hope this doesn't go into like another, like, Snyderverse, bring it back. Like,
that'll always
they're going to be here.
They're forever. No, and I know that. But
it's just not going to happen because I think that they don't. Yeah, it's a whole other conversation. But if we go now, so that we know that one's coming out at the end. And then speaking of which, speaking of Batgirl, we go back with the actress in the movies when there was a nice letter, a heartfelt letter that was written to Zaslav and Ivory Aquino, who said, last night we got word that Warner Brothers Discovery, David Zaslav, was planning to hold funeral screenings of the scrapped Batgirl movie for cast, crew, and execs before the film is locked away. This was surprising. This was a surprising move considering the sheer amount of backlash that the studio had received for its decision to shelve the movie in the first place. But even more shocking was the suggestion. We read all this stuff already. Okay, so Ivory Aquino, who responds to Zaslav with the following. In the Twitter thread, Aquino, who had been cast as Barbara Gordon's best friend, Alicia Yeo, reveals that the decision to cancel Batgirl has caused a lot of emotional stress to both herself and co-star Leslie Grace. She also outlines why she feels the movie deserves to be seen and asks Zaslav to reconsider releasing the film. Dear Mr. Zaslav, I just read in an article on the Hollywood Reporter about supposed funeral screenings of Batgirl and the possibility afterwards that the film footage would be destroyed. If this is the case, as one of the many who poured their hearts into the making of this movie, I ask that this measure be reconsidered. As much as I've tried my best to be strong these past few weeks, I'd find myself crying, for lack of a better term, from grief, and tonight was one of those nights. As much as Batgirl has been labeled a woke film, it simply came together that way because of the writing that reflects the world we live in. For me, more than anything, in a father-daughter story which hits close to home, as my dad passed a year ago shortly before I booked this project, and I was hoping it would resonate with other children around the world. grown and not so grown, who hold their fathers in the highest esteem, and who could see Batgirl as a story of that special bond. I found myself not being able to talk about this ordeal with anyone. I realized that no one apart from those involved with the film would truly understand what we're feeling. And talking about it with my castmates, I might be akin to rubbing salt on a still open wound. My heart goes out to Leslie Grace and our director and crew and cast, who spent months dedicating all this endeavor. Leslie checked in on me the other day. We found out the shelving had only words of comfort and support. I dared not ask if she's spent nights holding back tears like I have. It goes on for a bit. It's a long Twitter thread. Now, here's what I'm going to say about this overall. I think this is a heartfelt note. I think it is something that she wanted to put out there because it was just bottled inside. I think it was also done for people to see. I have my thoughts on that in general when because of what we just talked about before with Matt Reeves. If there was a negotiation coming up, that was clearly the intent. Was I'm not saying it's not genuine. That's a genuine tweet. The heart and the thought and the tears and the pain.
Do you think it's a power play?
I mean, it's you want to get support from the fans. You want to get retweets and you want to get things because you want to get that in motion. There's no doubt about it. And
it's like writing an open letter in the newspaper days, but more connected.
Yeah, you're not really writing a letter
raising
to Zaslav.
awareness.
You're putting out a statement.
Yeah.
And you're putting Zaslav's name in there, but you're putting out a statement so that you want the audience to get behind you to say, like, here's all this pain. Inside of that, though, and again, even though I don't think it was handled the right way, if this movie, if they don't, and this is something I said to you guys, and I'll say it again, if they don't feel that the movie is good, and they feel that they need money right now, and this is the money move, they have every right as a studio to say, we're not releasing this. Like, we just can't do it. We need to make money. It sucks. We hired you. You got paid for it. It sucks, and we hate that happened. We hate that you've been put into this stress, but we're going to lose money on it. As much as this was a very nice letter that you wrote to us, it's not going to put that money back into our bank account. The write-off will. I understand it. I get it. I also understand the pain and the understanding that I've got to talk to someone. I'm not saying she shouldn't have put it out there. Yeah. I'm just saying, but it's not just an open letter. You're not writing a letter you're putting out a public statement.
It's funny. It's not going to change anything in the industry, but that's one of those things that the biggest thing that anybody that does this stuff knows, it's not a thing until it's actually a thing.
Right.
Until you see your writing, until you see your acting, until you see your directing actually out there on the screen, it's not a thing. Because Lord knows there have been roles that I've done where I was like, I had like 3 or 4 scenes in this. I killed it. And then they cut me down to 1 line.
See you on the DVD.
And you know what I'm saying? And it happens. And so this isn't something that's going to make the rest of the world go, damn, that is tragic. I can't imagine, like, I spent all this time as a construction worker working on this building, whether or not you have like some major like emotional tied to, but I put all this effort into it and they just decided, you know what, the building's not working out, and they just tank it, where you would be like, well, that sucks. Like, I put all that work into it, you know? Yeah. It's a similar thing. Especially because of how hard it is to get to the point where you're like the second lead of a movie. Yeah. To have that movie just vanish on you would be devastating.
Yeah. My heart goes out to her for sure on that one. I just, like I said though, when I look at it, and it's not like she didn't send that to him. She could have got, her agent could have gotten it directly to him. She released that to the public to say, like, hey, retweet this, maybe it's something to happen, because there have been movements in the past. I mean, we just talked about the Snyder.
Yeah, that's how things get done in a lot of ways in modern times.
Yes, and things can get done that way. So that's kind of maybe the intent and the thought behind it. And maybe it could be desperation. It could be just something to try to get. Because the other thing too, even though you get paid for the work that you do, you get more paid depending on what your deal's like if the movie comes out.
And your career changes.
That's 100%.
Unless it's really bad.
And that's
if it's really bad, yes. But if it works out, that's that long game money. It's not the I got the NFL contract where I'm making millions off of this. It's you got the contract, then you performed, so now you get an even bigger contract.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, look, it's a crappy situation for everyone involved. I still think that it could have been handled way better by Warner Brothers up top, way better. But I've never questioned the idea of you can't. I don't think that we have the right to. It's like, if we're not spending the money on it, you can do whatever the hell you want to do. When you spend your money on a little thing, and you spend $400 on something, and someone else comes in and tells you, well, you got to do this, and they didn't put anything into it, you don't really have to listen to them. Doesn't mean that they like your decision.
Yeah.
But and that's the thing. It's just, but you could have been a little nicer about it. You could have said something a little differently. You could have, but again, he could just say, well, look, that goes back to our conversation before.
And also Warner Brothers.
Yes.
Also Warner Brothers is going to have the bad relations with all these people.
Yes.
But what I'm curious about is how they solve the relation issues that they've caused because of how you're talking about it. Because the borrowing money thing.
What's the other one?
Well, you're talking about burning relationships with creators.
Who else did they burn?
Remember, this happened during the pandemic with Nolan and everybody else.
Yeah, but he wasn't part of it back then. It was a different regime. It wasn't him.
I understand that it's still the name of Warner Brothers. You have associated with being like, well, we're going to do what we need to do, creators.
And it wasn't just, you're right, Nolan was the biggest figurehead of it, but it was everyone that was like, wait, you're releasing our movie on your streaming service?
Yeah.
Like Denis Villeneuve, like so many directors. So many directors were like, wait a sec. So you're right, that's another good point. Like this is a continuing.
But that one they can get away with, though, for me. Overall public. Yes. They don't know who's in charge. It's the same thing we were just talking about with Ezra Miller. To them, it's like, but again, they probably don't know about that.
Right.
that
but the people that are working in the industry, like the people that are saying yes or no to work with the studios.
But the people in the industry know that that's not the same regime.
No. Right. They know that, but the brand name now is being synonymous with screw creators, and that's what's scary because it's not just the Batgirl stuff. The things that have been tragic that I've been seeing is the people that are like, all of the Cartoon Network catalog that was on there now has just been stricken.
Yeah.
The people that have had a number of completed shows that are just gone. The Batman, that Cape Crusader show is gone.
Well, you know what they should do? And this is what they probably will wind up doing. It's not necessarily just gone. What people also have to realize is this, because we're so used to this streaming thing now, like everything lives in one hub. If you look at certain places that don't have streaming services, right? Mm-hmm. How do they make money? They make money by licensing their material. Mm-hmm. So if Warner Brothers wants to then say, okay, well, you guys are bummed about that. Well, you can, Amazon's paying a hefty deal. You can go watch on Amazon.
That's where that Batman show might go. Is like I could see it getting.
Netflix is picking it up, and you get scrapped from the other services of stuff that you don't need. Like they're not going to do that with Game of Thrones.
Sure.
But there's other things that you can do it with, and it's like, okay, great, license it.
It was. I think that was the most tragic story was the Cartoon Network, because the Cartoon Network brand is what Adult Swim. Yeah. Obviously the random shows they put up for kids and stuff like that. All of that just vanished.
Yeah.
And so if what they're gonna do, and maybe we just haven't heard about it the same way you were talking about the deal with Matt Reeves, if maybe they just haven't gotten to it yet and they're in the middle of negotiations. But that is not what has been presented to all these people with their shows. Sure. It's like your show doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And so I hope if they're not going to have a revival thing, that they do allow them to release that and potentially sell it to someone else, because that's even People's more soul crushing to me than I think the letter she put out is the person that was like, I finally sold a show. We shot the whole thing. It drops in August and now it doesn't exist.
But it goes back to your point before. Until it hits that screen, it ain't real.
And it's not real. And I know, I know that. I definitely know that.
It doesn't mean it sucks any less.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's true. All right, listen. Long, fun episode here today of Capes and Cowls. So just a couple of things, I guess. Housekeeping, that type of thing. So on September 1st, as I mentioned, maybe you didn't know, maybe you haven't been paying attention to all of our stuff here, so I'll just kind of reiterate it here. I am, for the first time, when I left Collider, I was on my own for around 2 months before I took a position with Skybound Entertainment, and I'm very happy that I did. There was a lot of great stuff that we were able to do, but I am leaving Skybound Entertainment, and September 1st is my last day. That means I am officially going to be on my own again, and as I mentioned, it's going to be a little scary, but it's going to be fun and exciting. It means we're going to build out this house while you're seeing the new studio, the way that it's starting to kind of evolve. You're going to see a lot of different things start to happen in that Clips channel. There's things that when I go to a screening now with whether it's Coy or Winston or anybody from the overall crew, is that what we would do is Winston and I went and saw Nope. Well, the two of us did an out of the theater reaction. Now, because of the Clips channel, you'll be able to see a single out of the theater reaction from Winston that will live there, and then mine will live on my channel. So you'll have two different ways to do that. So there's a lot of things that are evolving on that side. The other thing that's really evolving is the Patreon. Patreon is something that was so crucial to the growth of the Movie Trivia Schmodown, and then we had an SEN Live Patreon. And that is going to basically be condensed and will be condensed starting on September 1st. Now, on that Patreon, what you're going to see is we're doing the rewatches that we've done on this show. Our last rewatch on the SEN Live Patreon is Predator, and that will air on this month, and it's coming up in the next couple of days. But that will also transfer over to the Patreon. We're going to be doing one rewatch per month. We're going to do a Q&A. We're going to do a lot of different behind the scenes. We're going to do Schmoes No reviews and shows that have been basically made private. They're going to be exclusive to the fans. I have the Movie Trivia Schmoedown slices that all the competitors were like rabid dogs trying to figure out where they were. We're going to give those away to patrons because the fans, you can't find it in here, Winston. It's hidden. So they're going to be giving them away to fans. And the other thing I want to try, I brought this up to Kate. I want to see what the legality is of it, but I want to see if I can do for patrons only a exclusive like auction. And basically what you would do on Patreon is you would have, you bring up the Streamlabs and the Super Chats, whatever too, but you do like a time period and you bring up, let's say, hypothetically, the original Schmoedown Team's belt. And you start the bidding at like $200. And you say, because you got to think about shipping and everything too. And then you go, okay, here it is. Okay, so-and-so just put in 200. You have until 15 minutes before it goes to them. And you start talking, you do everything that you're going to do. And the same thing, you can do that with a bunch of different things. The wheel slices, I found so many different things from Schmoedown memorabilia, but I found a lot of SEN stuff. But that's the auction side of it. The other stuff that will be coming out for sure is other pictures and art and things that I found that will be exclusive to patrons. I'm going to be so active in that Patreon that that was one of the main things that happened in Patreon for Schmoedown is that it was harder with all the stuff I was doing. I wasn't as engaged. That's going to change tremendously. So we ask you right now, it's patreon.com/Schmoedown. It will change. It's going to be the big thing, Patreon. We hope you join us. But besides that, we have all those other things. We have the Apple Podcasts. We have Spotify. All of it, and don't forget about the Clips channel. If you haven't gone to the Clips channel, please go on over there and subscribe to that channel today. But there's a lot going on, man. We got a lot. We have a lot of rewatches coming out. We have so much, and we're excited for you guys to join us. But I wanted to thank Coy. I want to thank Winston. Make sure you check out both those guys, whether it's on TikTok, Twitter, anywhere, the YouTube channels. Make sure that you do that. But this is it. This is Capes and Cowls. We'll see you on the flip side. Peace.